All right, I've got an important one here. I've got Dan Gates here from Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management coming on to talk about a bunch of stuff going on in Colorado and how we can help those guys. Um, it's important, man. And being from California, we banned lion hunting in the 90s. We see, this is not exaggeration. You put game cameras up, we see more lions than we see deer on our cameras now. Um, we banned bobcat hunting in 20, I think it's 2021. When they had the meetings, the biologists literally said, I've never seen a bobcat in the wild. And I kid you not, I see a bobcat every dang time I go out and hunting in San Diego. They're everywhere. Um, this is the left's way to attack us. This is the opposition's way to attack us. They go for the cute stuff first, and then the deer is the next thing, you know. And I mean, we're already seeing it here in California. They want to take bear. We have Project Coyote in California. They want to take coyote hunting away. They just try and get you wherever they can. And lions and bobcats are where they're going after Colorado. And there's a man standing in the gap, and that's Dan Gates. So, Dan, I'm going to pretty much turn this show over to you and let you do your thing because I don't know anything. I can say that I was in Colorado 2 weeks ago and I glassed up 3 lions. So there's definitely not definitely not extinct over there. I've seen more. I saw more lions in that unit than I've ever seen. I've only glassed up a few lions in my life, and I saw 3 on that hunt in that one area I was in. So there's a lot of them over there. You're introducing wolves into your thing. I mean, they're just they want to go after you guys bad. So I'm going to turn this thing over to you, Dan, and let you have your way with it.
Well, Drew, I appreciate the opportunity, seriously. And we're kind of into the last 35, 36 days of this campaign. And we're riding the coattails of guys like you and other podcasters and influencers and industry leaders to be able to get the message out further, broader, and enhance the message that we need to be able to create, especially during hunting season. I mean, it's hunting season. Where are our guys? Mostly in the field. If they're not
Mhm.
in Alaska, they're in Canada, and if they're not there, they're hunting in some other state or waiting to hunt, and or they might be an outfitter, they might be an agriculture producer, and what are they doing this time of the year? They're pulling calves out and getting out of the high country and getting off the public land and getting ready to ship, and so the only time we can get the message to all those guys is like this, and we can't afford to buy this sort of stuff. So capitalizing off of you guys and riding your coattails and piggybacking off of your generosity is imperative. But as you mentioned, we got a bobcat and mountain lion ballot initiative coming up that the voters are going to get a chance to vote on. We've been fighting this at multiple levels since September 22nd of last year. And we went through all the proper procedures, protocols, title board, secretary of state, Supreme Court, to the tune of several $100,000 to get us to a point to where we're at now. The signatures have been gathered by the opposition, and we went from what it was originally called Initiative 91 to a final certification through the Secretary of State, and it's Proposition 127. So 127 will be on the ballot for the voters on November 5th, and they will attempt to try to alter science-based wildlife management when it pertains to these two specific species, but to where people aren't listening to me spout my supposed wisdom and my opinions. I brought the documentation to where I could read verbatim exactly what is going to happen off this. And so they can interpret not just from me or the opposition, but they can listen to the legal side of things and from the management side of the experts at Colorado Parks and Wildlife that's been managing our wildlife resources for the last 125 years. And so when people ask, what does this Proposition 127 do? Proposition 127 would prohibit intentionally killing, wounding, pursuing, entrapping, or discharging a deadly weapon at bobcats, lynx, and mountain lions in Colorado. While the measure uses the term trophy hunting, it bans all hunting, pursuing, or entrapping of bobcats, lynx, and mountain lions, regardless of the intent. Individuals convicted of any of these activities are subject to up to 364 days in jail, a fine of up to $1,000 or both, and a 5-year prohibition on holding a license issued by Colorado Parks and Wildlife, with more stringent penalties for subsequent convictions. Now, I need to throw out that lynx, for those that don't know, are federally and state protected in the lower 48, so there's no harvesting of them at all. But the proponents of this measure were steadfast in making sure that lynx were included in this in case they ever became delisted. and there might be an opportunity for some sort of harvest in this state. That's not likely that they would ever become delisted because of the federal component. But if you look at what Colorado has endured over the course of the last 7 or 8 years, especially since this governor has taken over with the animal rights extremist mentality, and that's on the agriculture side and the common sense wildlife management side, it's not out of the realm of possibilities to read the language of intentionally killing, wounding, pursuing, entrapping, or discharging a deadly weapon at, that if you take mountain lions and bobcats out of the equation, the statutory definition of trophy hunting would be set in Colorado statute, the first time in the United States that trophy hunting would be defined as hunting. You could
Mhm.
turn around and take elk out and put it into the spotted bobcats, and you could turn around and take bighorn sheep, or maybe it's mallard ducks. In Colorado, we've got 78 game species out of 961 species of wildlife, but 78 game species that people purchase licenses for to be able to pursue that endeavor. Maybe that's waterfowl, maybe it's small game, it might be predators, it might be big game, of which we have multiple species of big game. But our predators that we have are bears and mountain lions that are classified as big game. And even though we voted as a state to reintroduce wolves, which has been a slow, tenuous, very tumultuous process, wolves are not big game species, and they will not be listed as a big game species. And the reason I mention that is because if this proposition goes through, 127 goes through, and mountain lions are not listed as a big game species anymore, the depredation claims on mountain lions to farmers and ranchers for their sheep or their goats or their cattle or whatever would not be compensated any longer because they would not be classified as a big game species. And so while there's 8 exceptions to the rule to where people could kill a mountain lion during this process, there's no exception for harvest. And so while they could kill a mountain lion for human health and safety and protection of private property and livestock and so forth, there would be no compensation any longer. And they act like that, oh, there's still methods that people could hunt mountain lions. No, then nothing could be further from the truth, because you hunt to pursue and kill and wound or stalk or entrap is what the intent of hunting is, even though I don't know anybody, Drew, that intentionally wounds anything. But it's the language in here. The instances where people say in this measure that you could still kill lawfully is not part of harvest. It's not part of management. It's not part of science. It is a human animal conflict resolution component that they act like that's still given us, even though we have it in statute as of now. So they're not giving us anything. We already have all those measures and those exceptions currently, along with hunters, licensed buying hunters and sportsmen that are purchasing last year, for instance, 2,500 and some odd mountain lion licenses with a success rate of 502 licenses or lions that were harvested for a success rate of around 19%. So 81% of the people that are buying tags are out there and they're contributing to the management of lions, and they're not taking anything off of the landscape, but they're buying that resident or non-resident tag after they went through the appropriate test and the education course to be able to identify a lion, a male or a female lion. And once they pass that certification, then they could go buy a license. But once they bought that license, they just didn't go willy-nilly. They had to go some specific location where the quotas are met to a specific mandate that the agency, the science-based agency, has permitted. And then every day before you hunt, you have to check online to see if that area is still open and that those quotas have not been filled. This is the
Mhm.
most stringent, most regulated big game species on the planet when it comes to hunting. But the opposition doesn't want us to do it in any way, shape, or form, and that's why they've created so many fallacies and falsehoods and lies and the speculative side of what they say that sportsmen and women do, and even what the game and fish department, the Parks and Wildlife Department does, is all lies and deceit. And we're hoping that with what we've created so far through the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management and the actual campaign that I co-chair, which is Colorado Wildlife Deserve Better, that's the actual campaign itself that will say vote no and has said vote no on all of this, while C.R.W.M is providing the ancillary parallel component to be able to get the sportsmen and women engaged and let them know that this is not about mountain lions and bobcats. Let them know that we need extensive funding And we need partnership from other states and entities and individuals and businesses to be able to pull this off. And we've done that very formidably so far, but we're getting down into the nitty gritty, to the nut cutting, as a cattleman would say. And we got 35 days left to hopefully get the people of Colorado to make an educated decision and support science-based wildlife management. That's a long, drawn-out explanation of where we're at right now, but it's a pretty good comprehensive overview.
So I got a few questions. One, are you guys trapping lions there? Like
No,
foot trapping? You're not, right? So,
no.
but they put that in there because it sounds like you are.
Yeah, the way that they word that is, it sounds like that you are, and we can't use foothold traps and snares and body gripping devices because we banned trapping here in 1996.
So why is it in there? Just to make you
That's
look bad?
yeah, yeah. The
That's what.
only thing that we can use is cage traps in the state of Colorado. So everything is caught in a cage, which remarkably, I mean, trying to get the people to understand this, and guys like you might be able to turn around and spread the word in the next, couple weeks. But it's okay to go to Oregon and trap wolves and put them in a cage and bring them here, or Washington, or go to British Columbia and leave them in a
Yeah,
cage for 2 or 3 days while they feed them and they do it. But it's not okay to trap a bobcat in a cage and leave him sit there for 24 hours or less. We
yeah,
can't cage trap mountain lions, but they do cage trap mountain lions for some of their studies through the
yeah.
science side.
We're not. That's my point. So we're not like when I say we're gonna use we're as like us.
Yes.
We're not cage trapping lions. Like I don't know
No.
anybody who's got a tray like one of those big old trailers that's towing around that's just dropping it off in the hills to catch a lion.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
happening.
No.
We're not
It's
trapping lions. We're not. But it sounds like now from an uneducated person voter, they're seeing all they think of is this big claw trap just stuck on a lion, and and they use these pictures. I see it like you go to Montana. I mean, you go to I was just in Colorado, Wyoming. I mean, there are so many billboards, you guys who haven't been like just like a poor defenseless lion and end the cruelty, and it's always those freaking Disney character animals up there. But this is so we're clear. We are not trapping these animals right now. I mean,
no.
maybe cage traps. When you think of a cage trap, that's going to be like your typical steel cage trap you buy, has a door on
Yeah,
one end, thing walks in. Yeah,
have a heart cage trap. I mean, that's,
yeah,
if we want to trap on public land or private land for recreational or avocational purposes, we have to use cages. Period. It doesn't matter whether you want to do a coyote or a raccoon or a beaver or a bobcat, but that's fur bearers and small game. But we cannot cage trap any big game, and we cannot foothold trap. Period. When it comes to that sort of stuff,
or snare trap,
or a
or
snare trap, or a body gripping device like a conibear trapper. No,
conibear or something. Yeah, so okay, so that's not happening.
nope.
Second thing I want to bring up, you said you guys killed 500 lions last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know the exact number. I know it's like 6. So in California, we're not allowed to hunt lions. The state still kills 600 lions a year,
Close to that.
close to that. And we are having in California, I'm not trying to be like, it's finally like when we first did it, like it wasn't so bad, right? Now we're in 2024, we're 35 years removed. We haven't hunted lions since the 70s. I don't remember the whole backstory behind it, but we haven't. So lions are so prevalent now that we are having a lot more attacks. They're becoming very common in California. We're having kids get attacked. We had a kid in San Diego get attacked in the canyon. We're
Yep.
having these things up on the Hollywood sign. They're coming into neighborhoods. I mean, they're getting pushed out because they're not getting. So there's a danger factor there as well. That you might not see it right away, Colorado, but give it 20 years of this, you're going to see it, and you will 100%. Those things got to eat a deer a week.
Mm-hmm.
You 100% will see your deer hunting go down, which in turn will make tags harder to get, which in turn make less hunters in the field, which is their end goal of this whole thing. The less hunters we have, the more we can vote for their stuff. The point behind that is they're still going to kill 500 lions a year. I guarantee it. They're
Mm-hmm.
still going to go out and kill them because I guarantee you right now that's 500 hunters killed. How many lions did Fish and Wildlife kill last year? Do you know?
Well, the it's less than 30 that had to be euthanized or to cause some sort of depredation. That there wasn't some sort of a license buying hunter that
Mhm,
participated in. Now, I'm not saying that any one of the 500 weren't part of a depredating component
mhm.
during some sort of an issue or circumstance. But look, the fact of the matter is, if you read the language of what they have, and if you read what it says in here, which is the blue book that I'm referencing, and the blue book, for those that don't know, in a state that has ballot initiatives, is all of the technical jargon and terminology that is in here. This year, this book is 88 pages, I believe, and 3.5 pages are dedicated to Proposition 127. But it specifically said the CPW is responsible for wildlife management in Colorado and administers regulations for hunting, fishing, and trapping as adopted by the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission. State law requires wildlife and their environment to be protected, preserved, enhanced, and managed for the use, benefit, and enjoyment of the people and the visitors of Colorado. CPW manages individual animal species differently and uses regulated hunting, fishing, and trapping to meet management goals. Then it goes into a bunch of tables and stuff. Well, that's part of 33.1.101, the statutory component of our management system, what Colorado Parks and Wildlife adheres to. The interesting thing that if you look at the arguments and the arguments for Proposition 127, and then there's arguments against 127, which is on our side. But it says that bobcat and mountain lion populations can naturally regulate themselves without the need for hunting or trapping, and there is no consistent evidence that banning these activities would create new dangers to the public. Big cats provide valuable ecological contributions, and Colorado should protect them rather than allowing them to be hunted. Where circumstances warrant it, federal, state, and local officials will still be allowed to protect human life with lethal and non-lethal methods. That's the same stuff that you guys are doing out there.
So that's what's such BS though, because if they managed themselves, California wouldn't be killing 600 a year,
Well,
right?
that's the thing. Yeah.
That's the thing. So like that's my point, is that you're going to, like, for the bobcats, they're not going to be getting managed like the lions will. But the lions are going to get killed. Like that 500 lions are going to get killed. So if you don't kill those 500 lions, that's 500 more lions on the landscape this year. 500 next year. We're producing. This thing's exponential. They're going to start breeding. You're going to be having lions get pushed out into places they shouldn't be, and they're going to be getting killed. Like, it's the bottom line. You can't. The ecosystem's not going to withstand 4 toms in a square mile, right? Like we say in California, we got a lion every square mile, or something like that in the hills. It's crazy. They're going to get pushed out. They're going to be killed because they're going to become problem lions. It's the bottom line. Like, it's just, but we're talking common sense stuff. And common sense is not very common when it comes to the left, because they'd rather have the government do it than have a hunter do it. I don't understand why. And one of the most frustrating things for me with that is, as somebody who, I don't, what's to say, you don't have to say this, I'll say it. I don't like government because I think government does everything inefficiently. So now you're going to have these guys managing this resource. It's going to cost us thousands of taxpayer dollars, rather than just have hunters paid to do that and put that back into our. So instead of taking our sportsmen's dollars and putting it towards wildlife, we're going to take the money that we're not going to put that money into it, those 2,500 tags. And now we're going to pay someone to do it. Millions of dollars a year.
Exactly.
Millions of dollars a year, because the government does nothing efficiently. There's going to be a lion task force of whatever, 10 guys, right? There's going to be a predator task force built just for this now, because as soon as this is done, that's going to happen, because they're going to have to do it, because you're going to have these things that need to be taken care of now, because hunters aren't doing it. So it's just baffling to me. It's so backwards to protecting wildlife and helping wildlife. It's just, people, I don't know. How'd you guys get here? I mean, how about that? Like, what did you do wrong? How'd you get here? Because it's,
Well, I mean,
we
I
already
think a
did
lot
it.
of it is. I mean, we became somewhat Californicated, and what people didn't move from California to come here. The politicians that came here uh, were like-minded in the sense to where they wanted to bastardize anything that had to do with wildlife or domestic animal production, anything to do with oil and gas, anything to do with logging, anything to do with recreation when it came to the utilization of our public lands and resources. Uh, it's an ideology that has spread, and this process and program started back in around 2000 to 2002, when our last Republican governor was in office, and the Democrats said, "Over my dead body, will we ever have another Republican governor?" And they've been successful on that ever since. They know that through appointments, and they know through elections, that there's an opportunity for them to capitalize on their agenda. And it just so happens that we have 2 of the largest animal rights extremists in this office here. And I say 2 because we have Governor Jared Polis, and we have his husband, Marlon Reese, who is the instigator behind 99% of this stuff. But how we got here was back in 1992. There was a Initiative 10, which was attempting to ban the harvest of bears with bait and hounds in the spring, and that passed. And then shortly after that, in 1996, there was Amendment 14, which the amendment to the Colorado State Constitution banned the ability to be able to use foothold traps, body gripping devices, and cable restraint devices, except for extreme circumstances on private land, but nothing on public land and nothing for recreational or avocational purposes. In 2020, when this governor, 2 years after he took the office, they formulated a plan that he supported. I'm not saying he did it himself, but he damn sure supported, and which he has strongly supported now, to bring in wolves and reintroduce wolves in the state of Colorado, which passed by a very, very, very narrow margin, 50.9% to 49.1%. And then they decided to move into the next level after we defeated them at every single level that we possibly could. We defeated them in 2019 at the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission with an 11-0 vote with this governor's commission. We defeated them in 2020 by 11-0 vote with more of this governor's commission. We forced them to withdraw their petition to the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission in 2021. And in 22, they decided to go to the legislature, and we beat them handily. When we were told we would lose 4-1, we beat them through the Senate Ag Committee in 2022. And we took all their means and necessary opportunities away from them. And they had no other option but to go back to the well where they've already lost multiple times, or to turn around and try to run a ballot measure. So the sympathetic mentality of a lot of people that have been selected and appointed in this state. A gal by the name of Samantha Bruger Miller came from Washington State. She was with multiple different organizations at the West Coast that you guys are familiar with. She came here and she started Cats Aren't Trophies. And then she was subsequently I guess, accompanied by former HSUS CEO Wayne Pacelli, who is now funding this campaign. So anybody that doesn't know, the Humane Society of the United States is probably our biggest nemesis and adversary on the continent. Although there's a bunch of ancillary groups there, but Wayne he's the voice, and she's the soapbox derby. And between the two of them, they are attempting to accomplish what nobody else could through the commission and through the legislature. The funding is there, the resources are there, the support is there, and they're attempting to turn around and override everything that we were able to thwart over the course of the last 5 years. And if they get there, they've already said that this is not the first and only, this is the first of many. And this is, whether you interpret that for many species, many methods of take, or many states, people better pay close attention, because what happens here typically is what is likely going to trickle down and happen somewhere else.
Yeah, we kind of say that here. What happens in California happens everywhere. As a cynic, like I'm kind of cynical towards all this stuff because I live in California and I see it. So whenever we do get a win, they come back and beat us anyways. Like we say it's a gun thing, they come back and change something again. Like, we look at stuff and we put propositions in place here, and we've done things in play, and then they just find a way just to screw us in. It's almost like our vote doesn't matter in California. Like no matter what we do, they're going to find a way. We have a super majority of Democrats, similar to you guys, and they just find a way to get us. So how do you like if you do beat this, can't they just do it again next year until they
I don't
win?
think so. No, and the reason being is because once this individual is out of office, they're termed out in January of 27. I mean, the election will happen in November of 26. Uh, but you have to look at the background for these two individuals and see just how undermining and how tumultuous of a landscape that they've created. That won't last forever. And if we beat them at this level, they can't run a ballot initiative next year because it can only be taxes in odd years. They could theoretically run a ballot initiative in 26 if they wanted to, but what caucus or what party would want to run a ballot initiative when you're trying to get people elected to fill that gubernatorial spot or those other legislative spots? That's not smart politics. The smart politics is do it on a lame duck year like what we've got now when there's no governor's election. And so if we beat them now, we would have beaten them at every single form of government, state, the commission, who makes the decisions according to statute, and the election process. And if you beat them at those levels, you've actually set the tone and narrative that would not have set That would have been a precedent that's not been set anywhere in the United States. No place has beaten them on all three levels. And if we beat them on all three levels, look, they don't like to lose, but I guarantee with the animal wellness action of Wayne Pacelli, they dump 300, 400, 500,000, a million and a half, $2 million into something, and they lose and get their ass kicked. They don't want to come back here. They're not going to be here for a while. Now, I'm not saying they won't go to New Mexico or they won't turn around and try something in Utah or Nevada or Arizona or wherever. But if we would have built the roadmap and the playbook that's been successful that we've been able to accomplish over the course of the last 12 months now, I would suspect that playbook and that roadmap nationally, not just in state, anybody that's not heard about this issue and not seen, well, maybe my dumb, ugly mug on some podcast, but look at the outreach and look at the messaging, look at the fundraising, look at the continuity, the collaboration from the industry and the organizations. This is an epic opportunity and a monumental effort that we've been able to help spearhead and lead to the point to where everybody has jumped on board. Everybody's talking about this. Everybody's wanting a piece of the action. They want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I honestly believe, and the facts would lay the groundwork, that if we're successful here, this would be such a significant major blow to the opposition that it would take them some time to recoup, to get the enthusiasm, not only from funders, but from team leaders and organizations to build up something that they could actually try to capitalize on. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to shut up and go away, but what I will say is, knowing what we've done so far and what we've kicked their asses on at every single level, they brought in the biggest, baddest guns that they've got in the industry on the North American continent. And if we beat them here, and we beat them at every other level before here, yeah, it's going to set them back monetarily. It's going to set them back intestinally. It's going to set them back mindfully. And I see, just knowing the players, that they're going to strategize and try to formulate something else. But they're not going to be able to do it here very damn easy. And we would have built the roadmap and the playbook to hand off to you, wherever the state you might be, to say, these are the players, these are the contributors, this is the playbook, this is where you need to go. This is how we beat them, and this is a proven roadmap to success and victory.
Yep. And I think it's important too, and I'm just playing devil's advocate with some of those questions. It's important too to recognize that this is not Colorado that's doing this. This is liberal elites coming into Colorado and spurring this.
Yep.
And they do it everywhere. They tried to do it in, I think it was Bears over in Oregon, right? And they did it with bobcats in Arizona. They lost in Arizona, I believe, right, on the bobcat deal.
Yep.
This is like rich people from like Silicon Valley, California, Hollywood, funding the Humane Society, coming in and just like, hey, let's look at Colorado. Colorado's a blue state. We can get them. And the hard thing is, we deal with the same thing in California, is like, California's a great state, man. But we have some douchebag cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco that just roll the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? So, and you can't compete with that. Like, you go to Colorado, I drove 300 miles before I hit another city. You know what I mean? Like, little towns. It's all small towns, but then you have Denver, right?
Denver, Fort Collins, Boulder, Longmont, Loveland. That I-25 corridor. Right? Yeah, well, a little bit of that, but that I-25 corridor from essentially Castle Rock north, south, which is south of Denver, all the way to the Wyoming line. That's the target audience, because there's 4.4 of 5.9 million people that live there. I mean, that's where you have to concentrate on. And those are the ones, overall, they're probably the least ignorant, not stupid, but ignorant of the rural lifestyle, or what it takes to manage wildlife, or the demographics of the Western Slope, or the amount of wildlife that we have. And you look at 14,000 foot peaks, or the eastern plains of Colorado, or the western canyons, or the southern valleys and parks. Those are different landscapes to manage a lot of different things, whether it's wildlife or just, the habitat and the natural resources combined. It's easy for somebody to say, oh, I would like to hear a wolf. But then when they hear 4 years of bad publicity about wolves, they're going, well, maybe I didn't make the right decision by checking yes on the wolf deal 4 years ago. Maybe I heard enough from my uncle's brother's cousin's next door neighbor, who's a cattleman, who had issues with wolves before. I didn't know any of that. Or they saw some differences in discussions about mountain lions and bears and wolves and all the predators and stuff. I think that stuff goes into where people They're ignorant about some things, but they have a tendency to change their minds once they become more educated on it. And I'm not saying everybody. We're not going to win by 50%, but I wouldn't be surprised if we won by a couple percent because people are just sick and tired of somebody from out east or somebody from out west on the west coast coming to our state and saying this is what you should do. It's
Yeah,
not
because
people from here.
no, they think that you're a bunch of rednecks and they're going to come in there and they're going to manage you because they know better, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of rich liberal elites that are coming into all these states and doing this, and they just don't want to stop. They have these ideals and the agendas. I mean, California. I mean, we're at a place now where they want California just to be leave it alone, no management whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the
Pretty
same
wild,
time,
man.
but everything's wild. But at the same time, we're just going to keep building houses and, and doing all this stuff. So you can't have both. Like you have
No.
to have responsible game management, and that's what people don't understand. And it's just like, and man, it's hard because I mean, I guess we do have some bad apples, right? We have some guys who probably make us look pretty bad in the hunting space, right? Some of these guys do some things. Like we had that freaking moron that took that wolf into a bar. Remember that
Mm-hmm.
Coleman? That
Mm-hmm.
that guy. He did not do any favors.
Cody Roberts, Daniel, Wyoming. Yep.
He did not do us any favors when it came to Colorado.
Or
I had
anything for that matter. I mean, I'd
anywhere,
like to beat
anywhere,
his ass myself.
anywhere, right? He took a wolf in there. He has mouth tape. He's abusing this dog. Has it in there. That doesn't do any favors, right? We have guys who do stupid stuff with animals, but man, like, what people don't understand, and that's what I hate when they call it trophy hunting, right? Like, don't get me wrong, man. I'm going to whatever. I'm going to Utah. I don't care. I tried to see where I'm hunting. I'm going to Utah on Saturday with my kid for a tag, and trust me, if there's a forky and there's a 4 point, the 4 point's getting the bullet. You want to
Mm-hmm.
call that trophy hunting? I don't care. Yes, we're gonna shoot the bigger deer. Every 10 out of 10 times, we're gonna shoot the bigger deer.
Mm-hmm.
Except for when he shot the spike a couple years ago instead of the 3 point, but that was
Mm-hmm.
he was 12. But we're gonna do our best to shoot the bigger deer. But man, like
But let me
I
ask you though, Drew, did
yep,
you take a picture of that deer?
100%.
Okay, well then you're a trophy hunter.
Yep, yep,
According to the opposition, if you take a picture of a dead animal, you are a sadistic son of a bitch. You are a trophy hunter. If you
yep,
turn around and take any of the pieces and parts off of that besides the meat, you want to make a gun rack out of the hooves, you want to make a lamp out of the hooves, you want to make a necklace out of the elk buglers, it doesn't matter. You are a sadistic son of a bitch and you are a trophy hunter.
yep.
Not leave away the fact that even if we eat the stuff, the other stuff we can't eat, but they don't want us to utilize it at all. They want to bastardize us for going out and creating a three-dimensional memory, a three-dimensional furry photograph on the wall. But they don't care if it's a photograph or it's on the wall. You are the bad guy, and that's where they're getting into this deal where they are setting the tone and narrative on discussions about who we are, what we do, and how we do it. And I am not Cody Roberts in Daniel, Wyoming, and I turn
Mhm,
around and make sure that people know that I salvage everything that I can possibly salvage off of the stuff, but they don't
mhm.
want us to do any of that. Period.
Yeah, and where I was going with that, because I know that's how they portray us, right? Um, is man, I love wildlife so much more than, in my opinion, so much more than the average American,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I don't know any hunters like who are just out there just shooting animals and doing like that guy's an asshole. Like, I don't like that guy, right? None of us like that guy, but if that guy makes us look bad. I love deer. I love lions. I love wolves, whatever, but they need to be managed, right? In my opinion, they need to be managed. And there's something there where there's a disconnect where it's like, well, if you like hunting, you're a bastard, right? But then there's also this whole the vast majority of Americans aren't vegans, right? I mean, they're going to the
No, the
store and they're
vast
buying their
majority
meat.
of Americans, exactly. I mean, I think the latest statistics that I saw was that 9 to 11% of the United States citizens consider themselves to be vegetarian. Okay, now vegetarian doesn't mean vegan.
Say nine
There's only
percent.
9% are considered to be vegetarian.
Oh,
But some of that's from health reasons, some of that's from whatever particular religious beliefs or whatever. But less than 3% are vegan that don't use any animal products whatsoever. So let's just say hypothetically you got 9 plus the 3. Now maybe some of the ones are included in one category or the other. That means the 88% aren't.
hmm,
That means the squeaky wheel is getting the grease because they think that you and I should be like them. I don't want to be like them. I
nope.
want to do what I want to do and I want to eat what I want to eat. And if I want to die when I'm 61 already, so I can't die when I'm 55. But if I want to die when I'm 70 because I ate too much red meat. So be it. It's my damn business. But the fact of the matter is, they don't want us to kill anything to eat to be able to survive and to create a subsistence for ourselves.
Mhm.
Period. They want us to be like them.
And that really is the sad part is let's say the vast majority of Americans are just buying processed foods, buying stuff coming from these giant farms, whatever. They're not buying organic stuff, can't afford it. But we're out there actually putting the time in, right? Like I just put in 10 days in Colorado, didn't harvest an elk. Um, man, nobody has worked harder than me to kill an animal when they go to the store and buy a pot roast. You know what I mean? Like it's just you don't even like you put so much effort into that, you know. And then like even with my kids and like talk about respecting an animal. Like when we kill stuff, when we're gonna kill, I think we've killed a lot of stuff this year already. We've got 3 deer in the freezer. We've got an antelope, bunch of pigs. We have like 5 more deer tags. We're gonna kill a lot of stuff. But when we kill them, man, my kids are out there and they fully clean the animal. They pack the animal. They bring the animal home. They do their own gyros. I make them process all the meat now. And then we sit around the table and we talk about where it came from. Every time there's a story. And like, right, when we eat the antelope, we're gonna have antelope burgers tonight. Get back from Wyoming. My 11-year-old went, dude, he's gonna be telling this story, right? How we stalked this antelope, right? And I was crawling on my belly and he was spinning in circles behind me. I don't even know how this antelope didn't run away, you know? And he's gonna tell that story to my family. And like, man, screw you for trying to take that away from me. It's just like, don't tell me I don't love antelope. Don't tell me I don't love like just because it's just, and you have it right. Like they want to focus on, it's this small group of people who are the loudest and have the funding.
Have the
And
funding.
you see the delusion behind them. You see the delusion behind all these people, right? Like you look at like the Democrat Party of when I was a kid, because my dad was a Democrat, my grandpa's Democrat, right? It's not the same party as it was then. Like it used to be about like the hardworking man, and now it's about like God knows what, the most extreme things. They try and act like it's not, but it is. And it's this small group of people who are pushing that, right? And everyone's so afraid to stand up against them. That's why I have so much respect for you to stand up against these people because they just want to crush you.
Oh, yeah, and if you knew everything that went on behind the scenes, it would make you want to vomit in your mouth. I mean, their tactics are uh, so offensive and so destructive and so uh, disrespectful that you have to be willing to turn around and take a few punches here and there, sometimes literally,
Mhm.
uh, depending on who you're dealing with. But they're not going to stop with lions and bobcats.
No,
Uh,
bears are right behind them.
Yeah, or for that matter, I mean, I've made this statement as much as I've done public presentations over the course of the last 12 months. And I've been the president and the board chair of and executive director of multiple organizations and councils and committees and associations. And when they get done with this, if they lose, they're going to regroup and try to figure out we got to find some place that doesn't have some dumb bearded bastard there with an organization that's already established. And the reason I say that is because we didn't create C.R.W.M, the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, to oppose this. We were already there. We were there before the governor was there. We formulated this 7 years ago, and we were playing intimately for 15 years before that. That's something that every state needs to figure out a way to do. They need to formulate a 501c4. They need to support the organizations that are C3s, like Rocky Mountain Elk and Rocky Mountain Bighorn and Wild Sheep and
Mule
Mule Deer,
deer.
whoever the hell else. Uh,
Mhm.
but they're not formulated to do the job of a C4. Our lobbying representation at the Capitol is there for everybody else to benefit off of, but they can't do what we do. There's a void in our landscape nationwide for this sort of a structure. But to do that, to be able to make sure that you can fight when you need to fight, and then you can fundraise when you need to fundraise, you need to be able to prepare for the inevitable. And whether that's 2 years or 5 years or 10 years down the road, they're not going to stop. But if you can kick them in the teeth and make them regroup, it gives you a chance to do something positive. Maybe go on the offense, maybe do a preemptive strike. We've been fortunate enough to do things like that, but just not to the magnification of what we would like, because every time we turn around, there's another sector of the animal rights extremism side that keeps coming back. Okay, well, we'll get rid of this. Okay, we'll get rid of that. This is a fight that is a business for them, and they've made a monumental amount of money off of this. Not just the bobcats and mountain lions, but just animal rights extremism as a whole. This is an industry for them. Any group of organizations that's got 3 and 4 and 500 attorneys, or that can turn around and use taxpayer dollars
At
to
four hundred
sue
dollars
us.
an hour at the
Yeah, or
least.
$700 an hour.
4 or
But
5. Yeah.
if you can use the Equal Rights to Justice Act, and we pay for them to sue us and to sue the government. There's a system here that's broke. And while we're talking about going hunting, and we have banquets and fundraisers, and we have youth retention camps, and we do stuff for the greater good, they're thinking about how they can take all that crap away. They're not thinking about how they can turn around and give us a little bit. They're thinking about how do we strategically align ourselves with each other to take every single thing away from those groups. Doesn't matter
Mhm.
whether it's mule deer, doesn't matter whether it's trappers or bear hunters or houndsmen or whatever. They want it all away, and they're hoping to be able to divide and conquer every single one of us. And the best way to do that is to turn around and get the voter to go against us, because then even voters within our circles will go against ourselves because we don't 100% agree with everything that each other does. So you get the politicians to turn around and lead the charge and make the appointments and make the inroads where they need to be made. We will eat ourselves alive because maybe there's some lion hunters that aren't supportive of somebody that does something with bow hunting, or maybe there's some waterfowl hunters that use dogs that aren't supportive tracking hounds on lions or bobcats. We can eat ourselves alive because we have the same goal of wildlife management and stewardship and perpetuity, but we just have different methods of taking different ideologies how we're going to do it. But the anti that's standing over there on the side, don't let them fool you. They want every single one of us gone. They're not going to
Yep.
turn around and allow us to do anything if we allow them to turn around and keep moving forward like a great big steamroller.
Yeah, man. One thing I always say, because I mean, we're always bitching over here in California on our forums and stuff, is you give them an inch, will take you a mile. Like every inch you give them, they're not done, man. It's like the more flesh they can get, they'll get. Dan, it's a humbling podcast. How do we help you? How do we support you? We're launching this thing next Friday, right before something going on. So let's talk about that. How do we help you guys? What do you need from us?
We need money still. I mean, we got to be able to fight tit for tat with these guys. And the best way that people can support us is through the campaign at wildlifedeservebetter.com. They can also go to savethehuntcolorado.com. That's the C.R.W.M side. If they don't want to donate, so to speak, Drew, SCI is running another raffle for us on the savethehuntcolorado.com page. There's a Gunworks rifle and a whitetail hunt for two in Saskatchewan that SCI is running. All the money that's generated off of that will go to the cause, just like what they did back in June when there was a roughly $150,000 that was donated, and that money went to the cause as well. That was a mountain lion hunt, an mount, and another Gunworks rifle. Those are some of the funding side of things you can do if you really want to, and you want to turn around and get a shirt or a hat or some sort of swag to put your mark on the effort. You can go to the shopping cart. Every single dollar that I'm talking about goes to the cause. Every single dollar. On October 18th at the Colorado State Capitol, we have a rally to oppose Proposition 127. That's a rally that we're inviting every single sportsman and woman that wanted to participate to come. It's 2 days after the first season and a week before the second season. It's right there in the middle to where nobody has an excuse. If you want to see and you want to save hunting in Colorado, this is the first step that we need to do to be able to plant our flag. A rally at the Capitol up to October 18th between 10 and 2. You don't need reservations. Just show up in your hat, whether you're an Army F guy or you're a bow hunter or you're a muzzleloading guy or you're a houndsman. If you want to bring your dog, bring your dog. Obviously, got to be on a leash. But we want to show a showing to the entire Denver community and to the legislature and to the governor's office that we are sportsmen. We are sportsmen and women, that we pursue game and we provide the licensing and funding revenue for this agency to be able to manage wildlife and our wildlife resources in perpetuity for the people and the visitors alike, including all of the wildlife. Those are two big things that you can do. October 18th, do the raffle deal. Up until then, the deadline is October 18th on that, and I think the drawing is the 20th. Well, you have to make sure, if you're in Colorado or if you know people in Colorado, register to vote. Make sure they're registered to vote, and then make sure that they vote the right way. Surprisingly, during the 2020 election, on the wolf deal, we were told that there was in excess of 100,000 Colorado sportsmen and women that did not vote. Now, we only lost by 33,000. Would all of them voted in our favor? Likely not. But if only 50% of them voted in our favor, we would have won the election and we wouldn't be where we're at today. You know, history repeats itself. When the antis have something good that happens, they want to capitalize on it. That's why they're coming at us now. All of the stuff I mentioned earlier about the commission and the legislature, and then how it gets to a ballot initiative. If we beat them at every level like what we did, and we would have been able to beat them on the wolf deal, they wouldn't come at us now.
Mhm.
But they won on the wolf deal, and then we still beat them on the lion stuff in 21 and 22. So what they do, they're capitalized on the wolf ballot initiative, thinking, well, maybe this is the way we need to go. We lost at every other level in the state. Let's go this route. So they've got a win underneath their belt that we didn't fight because we were fighting on the bobcat and the mountain lion stuff back then. But the agriculture community couldn't muster up enough funds. They couldn't get enough support. They couldn't get enough continuity. But the surprising thing is 100,000 registered sportsmen and women voters did not vote. If that happens again, we will lose. Doesn't matter how much money we kick to it. Everybody's got to vote. Everybody's got to be registered to vote. Everybody's got to get everybody else to vote. And the other thing that I would say is whether you're in Colorado or you're in California or you're in Washington or Ohio, and whoever listens to this or any other of the damn podcasts that I've done, people listen to people that they know more frequently than people that they don't. If you live in Colorado or you know somebody in Colorado, reach out and talk to them. Make sure that you reach out to the people that you circulate with, whether it's the kids' soccer game, maybe it's a bowling league, maybe it's at the gym, maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's a congregation. Reach out to them and say, hey, have you paid attention to Proposition 127? No, what is that? And tell them what it is, because they're more than likely from a 30-minute, a 30-second to a 60-second soapbox speech going to listen to you as opposed to a 30-second ad with somebody that they never heard of that they find out is from out of state. But if they don't hear from you, the only voice that they're hearing is from the opposition. So register to vote and vote. Get people to register to vote. Give the message to the people that you're close knit with, and then go to the websites and check us out on all the social media stuff and find out what we're doing. Look at the advertisements that we're doing. Look at the outreach that we're doing, the education that we're doing. And you need to pay attention that education campaign that we're doing on that side of it is not just to talk to Colorado sportsmen and women about mountain lions and bobcats. Utilize that and utilize it for whatever state that you guys are in and capitalize off of the efforts that we've done. It talks about science-based wildlife management. You talk about the statistics about California, Drew. We've got some really good social media spots that highlights what California has or hasn't done. And because we got Charles Whitlam and Mike Costello with Howl for Wildlife that are helping us out substantially on a bunch of different things for messaging, we got a lot of guys in California that have said, don't let this happen in your state.
Yeah.
Well, we're saying don't let it happen in Colorado. We're trying to learn from California, and we're trying to make sure everybody else learns from our successful victory that we can hopefully pull off on November 5th. Learn from California's mistakes, learn from Colorado's successes, and make sure that we plant a flag to where we can continue this monumental effort and move to the next level. And there's many, many different ways to do so. And I hope that you guys can share whatever information that we've got and get it out there, because between the Instagram on C.R.W.M, between the Facebook on Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, we got a YouTube page up. Between the website of Save the Hunt or Wildlife Deserve Better, SaveTheHuntColorado.com or WildlifeDeserveBetter.com, be part of the solution and not part of the problem, because we need the help and we need to be able to continue to ride the coattails of everybody. But more importantly, we got to lock arms no matter what species, no matter what method of take, no matter what season, and no matter what freaking state. We have the opportunity to turn around and say, enough is enough. Stop. You're not going to do it anymore. And we're not going to let you take that state either.
Yep, because there will be another state. It might not be your state right now, but it'll be your state next year. If it's not next year, it'll be in the next 10 years. I mean, they're going to come after you guys. So, Dan, that's a great podcast, man. We want to help you however we can with sharing this stuff. We're going to get this out as soon as we can.
Appreciate it.
Keep fighting for us. You're standing in the gap for sportsmen and women, and I respect that a ton. And I'm grateful for you. And I mean, and we're even us out of staters, man. I'm coming back to Colorado in November to hunt third season mule deer.
Mhm.
You know, it affects all of us. So thanks, Dan.
Reach
Let's keep in touch and let me know what you need from me.
reach out if you can. As I always say, aim small, miss small, and we look forward to a victory on November 5th.
Sir.